In the refinery compound, Van Lutyens tracks down Harris, heading for the control hall.
Now, Mr. Harris, I've been trying to get hold of you. Mr. Robson won't listen to reason. I'm sorry, Van Lutyens. I've got something more important on my mind at the moment. Important? What is important? My wife is ill. Get out of my way, there. Price.
Yes, sir?
Is Dr. Patterson back?
No, we've heard nothing from D-Rig, sir.
Right, get on to the matron at the Medicare unit and tell her to send a couple of orderlies over to my quarters with a stretcher to bring my wife in. She's ill. You know the extension. Yes, sir.
What's the panic now, Harris?
Go on, get on with it, Price.
Harris, I asked you a question.
My wife is ill. She needs medical attention.
What's the matter with her? She got a hangover?
She's very ill, Mr. Robson.
Who says so? The doctor fellow? Incidentally, where is he? And the two kids?
Oh, I left them in my quarters when I found my wife was ill.
You what? Those three prisoners were in your charge and you left them there?
I was worried about my wife. I didn't have time to think about
That's
such
your
things.
trouble. You never do think, do you, Harris, when you should? Those three prisoners were in your charge.
I don't care. Don't you understand? My wife was lying on the floor when I got there. She was unconscious, and that smell of toxic gas was there. She's been poisoned, Robson, poisoned.
This toxic gas, where does it come from?
Oh, I don't know.
And none of us will know now you've let them loose.
How could they possibly have anything to do with it?
That still doesn't alter the fact you let those prisoners go without my authority.
Prisoners? A harmless old man and a couple of teenagers.
That harmless old man is probably a saboteur. It's probably him that's been tampering with that release valve on the shoreline, creating all those variations in pressure you got so excited about.
Oh, don't be so ridiculous, Robson. You're clutching at straws, stupidly blind to the real fact.
Don't shout at me, boy!
Mr. Robson, sir. Mr. Robson. The impeller, it's moving again.
Robson joins the chief engineer in the impeller room. Harris and Van Lutyens follow him.
Good man. I told you it was only a mechanical fault, didn't I?
Just started quite suddenly.
Well, keep it going, man.
I don't know if we can hold it.
Don't lose it now. You fools, you stupid fools!
Well, the fault's not this end. It must be jammed at the base.
You wanted this, didn't you? It's just what you wanted.
You should have listened to me, Robson.
What turned off the flow? Ruined a reputation of 30 years?
Reputation? Don't you realize that what is going on here is beyond your comprehension? That whatever it is that's in the pipeline, that's jamming the impeller, that's taken over the rigs, is a menace and threat to us all?
The only menace and threat around here is you, Van Lutyens. And you, Harris. Listen. What are you staring at? I want that impeller working in half an hour. I'll be in my quarters. Let me know as soon as the impeller starts moving again.
Vardlos. He's cracking up, Harris.
Look, I've got to get back to my wife.
Harris, you can't go now. He's losing control.
My wife's been poisoned.
She's in good hands, yeah? She'll be brought into the Medicare unit. What can you do?
But I ought to go and see her.
Well, hang about and worry, that's all. Robson is cracking up. You are the only man with authority to take over. We need you here.
Chief.
Sir?
Mr. Robson, you know him better than any of us. Do you think he's all right?
Well, he's under a lot of pressure. I think his nerves are a bit...
Yeah, pressure, strain. He's cracking up, I tell you.
Well, you're not helping him, you know.
That's not my job. I am here to give technical advice which he ignores. All right, he knows a lot about engineering, but not all. And what he does not know is the state of mind of those men out there on the rigs.
He ought to know. He was out in those rigs himself long enough.
Oh, yeah. He has plenty of professional experience of normal conditions. But these are not normal conditions. There is something very strange going on here. But he refuses to accept the new factor.
So what do you think he should do?
I know what I would do. Close the compound, evacuate the rigs.
He'd never do it.
We have lost contact with 2 rigs. We have a major blockage in the main pipeline. The impeller is jammed, and we still don't know what is causing the trouble.
But we regained contact with Baxter on Rig D, and he said everything was under control.
Yeah, and we've not heard from him since.
Back in the TARDIS, the Doctor has produced a dusty reference book, which he shows to Victoria.
That's it, Doctor. That's the creature I saw back at the compound.
Yes, I was afraid it would be.
But how did it get in this book?
Well, I've told you, Victoria, this is a book of legends and superstitions. And this particular drawing is supplied by ancient mariners in the North Sea in the middle of the 18th century, Jamie.
That's my time. You mean to say this is a creature that Victoria saw back at the compound?
Yes, I think there's no doubt about it.
Well, what about these great clumps of weed?
Well, there's obviously some connection between the weed and the creatures themselves.
Oh, no.
Gas!
What?
Jamie, help me get the lid on.
The seaweed has been growing unnoticed, its tentacles slithering over the lip of the glass container. Quivering, the weed creature falls back into the tank as the Doctor and Jamie replace the lid.
I was right. The weed formations are feeding off the natural gas beneath the North Sea and giving off toxic gas. Come on. We must get back to Harris's quarters. Come along.
Just a minute. That weed went back in its tank very suddenly, didn't it? I wonder why. Come on.
Recalled to the control hall, Robson still refuses to listen to Van Lutyens.
No, I will not listen. It's you, Van Lutyens, isn't it? Isn't it? You've been undermining my authority ever since you came here. You and Harris. You've been stirring up trouble just to get at me, haven't you? You even got the chief on your side now. One of my oldest and trusted friends.
Mr. Robson.
At least I feel I can trust you.
Mr. Robson, all I want you to do is...
I know what you want. I know what you all want. You're going to get at me just so I'll give up. I'm not going to give you that pleasure. Why don't you go and join him? Go and join Van Lutyens. Go and join him. What are you standing around for? What are you staring at? I'm in charge. I'm in charge here.
Robson storms out.
Robson, where are you?
I'm in charge of this compound, Harris. It's my responsibility. Mine. My responsibility.
You still think he's capable of running this place? You do what you like. I go into touch with my people in The Hague. What can they do? I don't know. They might push your people in London to some sort of action. Give me direct line to Van der Post Haag Centraal. Yes, sir.
Furious, Robson returns to his cabin and slams the door. Once he's alone, his anger drains away quickly and he slumps down on his bunk. He is utterly exhausted. But the problems that beset the refinery weigh heavily upon his mind, and he finds himself unable to relax. Outside in the corridor, a white-suited figure appears and approaches Robson's door. Mr. Oak reaches out and turns a key in the lock.
Who's there? Go away. I'm not to be disturbed.
In the corridor, Mr. Oak operates the emergency vent controls for Robson's cabin. Still trying to sleep, Robson becomes aware of a strange hissing sound and the smell of gas. Struggling to sit up, he spots the foam pouring out of the ventilation grill. Long, curling tendrils of weed snake towards him.
Mr. Robson?
Harris arrives outside and hears shouting. As he unlocks the door, Robson bursts out and staggers away down the corridor.
Robson, wait! I need your permission to send 2 men down the impeller shaft.
Puzzled, Harris enters Robson's cabin. Writhing tentacles reach out of the foam. Horrified, Harris turns and runs. The doctor and his companions return to the Harris' quarters, where Victoria once again uses a hairpin to unlock the door.
Well, thank you, Victoria.
Yes. Nobody here. It's better that way. You speak for yourself. I'd rather...
Oh, no.
Gas!
Where's it coming from?
Jamie, try the kitchen.
As Jamie disappears, the doctor shepherds Victoria through the bedroom door. They find themselves facing a seething mass of bubbling foam, which surges across the floor towards them. A long tentacle of weed lashes out. But as Victoria screams, the weed creature seems to falter in its attack, and falls back, the foam receding to reveal an empty bed.
I'm terribly frightened. She's away.
Mrs. Harris!
Mrs. Harris? Oh, yes, of course. Mr. Harris had her taken over to the medical centre. At least I hope he did. Doctor! Quick, help me! That's Jamie.
Throwing open the kitchen door, the doctor finds himself confronted with a towering wall of foam.
The terrace!
The doctor leads Victoria through the study onto the patio. Through the kitchen window, they can see Jamie, marooned on the table, surrounded on all sides by a rising tide of foam and weed tentacles. His eyes stream with tears from the gas fumes, and he's fighting for breath.
Victoria, come on, follow me. Big doctor, up here.
A metal staircase leads from the terrace up to the roof. Hastily, the doctor and Victoria climb over to the kitchen skylight,
Give me a hand.
and together they manage to haul Jamie to safety.
Come on, up you come, Jamie.
As they help Jamie down, the tide of foam rises up, filling the kitchen and spilling up and out over the roof.
Press it down, Victoria.